Congratulations, you two, for we're all going to the World's Fair.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, first of all, very easy obligatory question. How does it feel that we're all going to the World's Fair is being showcased at the Sundance Film Festival?
Would you like to go first, Jane?
Sure, go first.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that it feels like a humongous blessing, and it feels like something that I feel really grateful that this film will be able to be showcased to so many people, because I know how hard Jane and everyone worked on it. And not only that, it's something that no one has ever seen before. And it's just exciting to have such a new taste in the film industry, really.
Jane, it's your movie.
For me, it's just a dream come true, you know, and also in this very strange year when everyone, I think, is figuring out again how to watch things and how to get people to pay attention to films that are maybe, you know, not Marvel blockbusters, to have the help of Sundance to reach an audience and launch the film in this way is such a relief and such an incredible opportunity.
Well, Jane, let's give you the first question. Where did this crazy idea came from? This story is like bonkers.
Well, the creepypasta community is a real online community that's pretty passionate. It's been around for over 10 years now. And, you know, it's really just, it's a community of people online who are creative, or maybe like artists who aren't working in their day job as artists, but who want to get together online and, you know, in this case, scare each other. And they do that by creating manipulated art, photographs, writing stories, making elaborate web series on YouTube. And, you know, for me as a young kid who grew up, you know, trying to find creative outlets on the internet in the sort of internet 1.0 era, you know, when I thought about what I wanted to make my first film about, telling a story about people trying to express themselves as young artists online seemed like perfect territory.
Anna, this is your feature film acting debut. Why did you want to do this as your first?
Well, this was actually a very interesting role to me compared to a lot of teenage girl roles that are just basically a carbon copy of one another. And just to see somebody with not only such an amazing character arc, but also somebody that has such a different outlet compared to so many teenagers, like somebody wanting to use drugs, I guess, as a form of escapism, or alcohol. Casey's is a horror game. It just was something that is very intriguing to me.
So Anna, how did you want to basically prep for a role like this? I mean, how did you get in the headspace of your character?
Well, the most important thing was just, you know, basically what always I'm taught is just script analysis, and that's always trying to find what happened to the character beforehand, not focusing on what the script was basically saying, but focusing on what got Casey to the point that she, you know, was, I don't want to give any spoilers, but what got Casey to do what she's basically going to do. And in order to prepare, it was just about understanding and getting into her shoes, and mostly trying to figure out her energy rather than anything.
Absolutely. Jane, how did you want to approach on filming something like this? Because you basically use different types of cameras, different types of angles, and everything. You basically did everything for a film like this.
You know, I'm really drawn to aesthetics that are maybe finding the poetry in something that's lo-fi. I think that's one of the joys of the internet. And when I think back on like 2008 and first going on YouTube, and the quality of those videos, that choppiness, that pixelated, ultra low quality, really reminds me, I'm starting to get nostalgic for it in the same way that I'm nostalgic for the scratchiness of VHS. And I think for people of my general age group, you know, when we think back on our days on the early internet, it's kind of covered in this lo-fi haze. And so I wanted to make a film that took that to its poetic ends, that tried to feel not like a literalized screen movie, but like a dream or a memory of using a computer when you were a kid.
That is true. Anna, because you came from sort of like the short film world, what What was this movie easier for you because a lot of the scenes where basically it almost seems like it was just like a bunch of short videos?
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily easier. I think that the only thing that really made it easy, honestly, was the warm welcome of the crew and Jane is just having such an open environment. But uh, it was just really a time. Jane said this just to act like a kid. Honestly, I felt like a kid for that time that we filmed. That I had absolutely no worries in the world, even though it was more of like a stressful role, I guess you could say. Uh, I mean, just to be able to work in general on such a film that I felt like I could personally relate to, it was very important to me.
You said you could personally relate to a film like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody in a way can personally relate to this. I mean, this kind of feeling of isolation is something everybody goes to, no matter like your gender, race, how popular you are. It's something that it's a part of the human experience, so everyone can.
That is true. I mean, how did you pull off basically the camera monitoring of where when Anna actually stares off at the at the camera like what we're doing right now? Did you actually have like a camera setup, or you're actually using like a computer setup? What did you actually do there?
We actually did the shoot in a few different phases. So we did do a professional shoot for most of the film, all of the Alexa camera for Anna to look at, and nailing eye lines and nailing framing was something that we were really careful about. And our DP, Daniel Patrick Carbone, who's just got the most incredible eye, really helped us to take our time and make sure each shot felt beautiful in its own right and wasn't just pushing the story along. And because we shot the film in a lot of long takes, treat each one of those shots as the delicate composition that it needed to be. And then, the film sort of has this arc where we start in the quote unquote real world on this professional camera, and we slowly descend into amateur video, and as I like to say, into the dream of the internet. And once we get into that, this was still Daniel, our DP, treating each shot with the same love and care that we always did. But now, instead of shooting on the Alexa, we were shooting on Mac's photo booth application or on a consumer grade camcorder. So, we wanted it to feel like this descent into amateur aesthetics, but still made with the care of cinema.
Anna, how was the adjustment into filming like something like this?
I'm sorry, I apologize. May you repeat that again? It backfired.
It echoed.
Echoed, yeah.
I was going to say, how did you make your acting adjustments towards all the different types of camera filming for yourself?
Well, in general, it wasn't really that much of like an adjustment. Of course, there was a character arc, but I try as hard as possible to imagine that the camera's not there. Because if I feel that thing staring at me, whether it's a laptop or something as great as the Alexa camera, I'm not going to be able to act properly. So really, it just was irrelevant to me, whether it was a camcorder or a laptop. I just was going to avoid it at all costs because this is my life and it wouldn't be recorded necessarily, right?
Yeah, but in a lot of the scenes, you have to stare directly into the camera, which is quite different from a lot of movies, right?
Yeah, it is quite different. I think that the biggest thing was just not becoming self-conscious because of the camera and not feeling watched, because this was something that the character Casey cared about. And, if you care about something, you're going to kind of avoid all the little trivial things of the self-consciousness of a camera.
Absolutely. Jane, this being your directorial debut, how was your overall experience for yourself?
It was the greatest experience I've ever had. And, I knew that if I was going to do my best work on my first feature, I needed to surround myself with artists and friends that I really trusted and that I could feel like Anna said earlier, a kid being creative, in the woods, making a movie rather than feeling like I needed to show up and, impress all of these people who were judging me. And there was no judgment on the set at all. And instead, there was this really wonderful atmosphere of all of us working together to make something that felt really honest and personal, I think, to many of us. And, so it was just a joy, and something that now all I care about is trying to figure out when this pandemic can end so I can do it again with my friends again.
Jane, I'm curious because since you wrote the story, and you actually you've been through this type of like a life experience of getting randomly contacted by a guy on the internet and so on.
Yeah, the film is not autobiographical, but it is inspired by a story that I have been telling as part of our lead up and press to the film. When I was 13 years old, I would write, this was before YouTube, so I would write scary stories on the internet. This was one of my main forms of creative expression, just as somebody who was too scared to, show people in the real world my work as a 13-year-old shy kid, but the anonymity of the internet was a nice place for it. I would post these stories on a message board, and people would comment on the stories, and we would all sort of encourage each other to keep writing. And this older man reached out to me and really like aggressively sort of pushed me into an IM relationship that got, it wasn't sexual overtly in nature, but it was like a very strange, intimate relationship that I knew wasn't a great thing for a 13-year-old and a 30-year-old man online to be having. The culmination of this strange early teen relationship for me was one night when he tried to convince me that vampires were actually real. I remember him IMing me and telling me that he had drank somebody's blood and he was turning into a vampire, and he wanted to teach me about this world. And it was this thing that was very strange because it was, I couldn't tell if it was role playing or if he honestly believed it, or if he was just trying to convince me that it was real to sort of lure me into something. It was a very nebulous zone to be in, and especially as a young person online. And I think that, returning to this space and making art about the internet as a space, this idea of a place where that kind of truth and fiction can merge together. I think it's a complex aspect of our current virtual reality.
Yeah, when you say I'm assuming it's like a AOL, instant messaging.
This was back in the days of AOL, and I eventually changed my screen name and lost touch entirely with this person. I wouldn't know how to get in contact with them, even if I wanted to anymore.
No, it's funny to me is because it's completely relatable. Is because I remember those AOL chat rooms and just randomly going in there and just talking to random people and role playing as somebody else and flirting with them, and you don't even know who's real and who's not real on the internet. Yep. at that point. But
one of the things that the film is interested in and that I'm interested in as a trans filmmaker is the ways in which the roles that we put on and play can be real. And so I don't want the film to feel like just a cautionary tale about the internet. I think that it's trying to speak about the ways that we, whether we're trans or not, or whether we're artists or not, define and express ourselves and our identities through role playing and through fiction.
Good thing, Anna, you don't even have to experience the AOL days.
Well, I actually don't really know anything about social media these days either, because I don't have any social media.
We had to teach Anna how to use a computer. Basically, she's like the least online person.
I'm not really part of it, but I'd rather go back to those days. So it was much more simpler, I feel.
That's actually true. Anna, I think your performance in this film was terrific because it seems like Jane had you do multiple things, from going from face makeup to dancing. But I really wanted to talk to you about your dancing scene in this film. How was that experience? How did you actually pull it off? Because I don't know, for some unknown reason, that was mesmerizing. I could just watch you do it over and over again because it was so I don't know. It's like watching a YouTube video.
I don't know if it was mesmerizing, but thank you very much. That's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that. I mean, my biggest concern was just trying to have a good time and just, obviously it was not professional dance moves or professional singing by any means, especially the singing. But it was just, if everything about acting is like, if you're not feeling it internally, the audience is not going to feel it internally either. And so at that moment, I was having a really good time. So I'm happy that translated well on screen, and you also felt like it was having a good time. Plus the song is catchy as hell, and I was just really having a good time being able to move to it.
Excellent. And I have one last question for the both of you, because obviously we're speaking to each other virtually right now because of this crazy times that we're actually experiencing right now, and everyone's staying at home. How are you two staying creative and sane during times like this? Who wants to start?
After you, Jane.
I'll go first, then you can have the last word, Anna.
Thank
you. It's just been a blessing having a film to edit and focus on during quarantine. I think it did wonders for my mental health, honestly, to know that I had this giant project that I could disappear into, and then, I could log off for the day and get terrified on Twitter like all of everyone else that I know. But we wrapped production on March 1st, just a few days before we would have had to close down set for COVID. And I just feel so lucky that I've had this project to keep me busy. I do my best creative work in the mornings. And so that has sort of become my ritual. Now that the film is done, I wake up early and drink coffee and write and act creative. And then, as the day goes on, I can feel like at least I accomplished something today on those days when you do end up on your Twitter doom scrolling.
Anna, you got the last word.
Well, just kind of like Jane said, first of all, I'm very happy that the film was finished complete. Like, that's a complete miracle that before coronavirus, we were able to complete the movie. But for me right now, I'm actually going to school to pursue a degree in acting for film. And it's just really just trying to learn the craft even more and expand my knowledge on it every single day. I got classes from morning to night, so I'm really just trying to perfect the craft as much as I can and just keep moving forward. And of course, like Jane said, writing in the morning is always the best way to start, because at nighttime nobody's going to be writing. Actually, unless you have trouble sleeping, then you make really good art then too. So
That's true. Well, for you two, congratulations once again for we're all going to the World's Fair. I can't wait to see what future projects for you two is going to come up next.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to meet you.
And nice to meet you. Bye now.
Thank you.